We've been discussing these 2 days the programs and the problems of a distinctive group of institutions of higher education. A group that President Sam Gould, in the January 12, 1968 issue of Time, called the giant that nobody knows. Now, to bring you this afternoon message, I'm honored to present our distinguished speaker. Dr. Andy Holt, our speaker for the session, is the president of the University of Tennessee. This is the 23rd largest institution of higher education in the United States. His varied educational background and his experience qualify him exceptionally well for this presentation. His bachelor's degree was from Emory and his master's and doctor's at Columbia. He has been awarded several honorary degrees, too numerous to mention, and he has been successively an elementary teacher, a high school teacher and coach, a laboratory school teacher, a college professor, executive secretary of the Tennessee Education Association, and then an administrator at the University of Tennessee since 1959. Among the other professional duties which he has carried, and there are numerous, I'll mention a few. He's a past president of the National Education Association, president-elect of the Southern Association of Colleges and Universities, former chairman of the Board of Visitors of the United States Air University, and a member of the steering committee of the Education Commission on the States. In addition to educational assignments, he's honored by being a member of the Board of Directors of the Southern Bell Telephone and Telegraph Company, the Board of Directors of the Life Assurance Company of Kentucky, and formerly he was a member of the Advisory Council of the National Association of Manufacturers. I could go on, but it suffices to say he is also a Methodist, Rotarian, married, and is the father of 3 children. It's a pleasure to present the president of the University of Tennessee, who will address us on the subject leadership for emerging universities. Thank you.
I'm glad I came for several reasons. One of them is that I knew I'd get just such an introduction as that. Wasn't that a good introduction? Let's clap for Jack. What do you say? Jack, you left out the most important thing. I not only am the father of 3 children, but I am the grandfather of 2 grandchildren. I have that picture in my pocket book, and I'll be glad to show them right after the meeting's over. I'm also glad to be here because we had a little meeting of our University of Tennessee Alumni Association, the Muncie chapter, just at noon today, and John Fisher had us out there, and we just had a wonderful time together. I had to explain to him why it was we didn't win the Orange Bowl game down New Year's Day. It takes a good long while to explain that one away, but I did. The main reason I'm glad to be here is that I've learned 2 jokes since I was in Muncie the last time. Do you tell jokes at this convocation? Is that appropriate, Jack? All right. You'll understand this first one only if you have read your Bible. Now, if you haven't read your Bible, I believe I'd laugh anyhow, just so that people think you have. This was about a drunk who was standing one day on a street corner, very drunk and very confused. He wanted to get across the street. He looked over here on this corner, and there was one of those flashing electric lights that said to go. He took one step out, then it changed to stop. He walked back, went over to the other corner. By that time, that light said go, so he stepped out. Then it changed to stop. He stepped back. Came back over to this corner. This time it said go, so he stepped out, stepped back. He did this for about 20 minutes. You can imagine how confused the fellow could get. After a while, he just broken-hearted nearly, didn't know what he was going to do. Well, finally, this good gentleman came up to him and said, "Could I help you?" He said, "You sure could. I want to get across the street." Well, the fellow took him by his arm and ushered him across the street. When he got over, he was just overcome with gratitude. He said, "You're the nicest fellow I ever saw. I never saw you. You're a wonderful fellow. If it hadn't been for you, I might have been run over and killed. Said, I appreciate it more than I can say. So my way says, don't believe I got your name." The man said, "I am Paul." Well, the drunk straightened up. He said, "Are you really Paul?" He said, "Yes, I'm Paul." He said, "Well, Paul, is a question I've been wanting to ask you for a long time." Said, "Did them Corinthians ever answer your second letter?" Support worthy causes. I think I learned this from the Southern Bell Telephone Company. What's your telephone company called up here, Jack? Michigan, Indiana belle. I was a Southern belle. But I had always noticed that no matter where I lived, if there's a real thankless, dirty job to do, and nobody else would do it, like getting up money for the church, else trying to sell a bond issue, else heading up the community chest. Nobody else would do it. They'd always call him as poor representative of the Southern Bell Telephone Company. He'd always do it. But I got on the Southern Bell Telephone Company board of directors. There was a demand for the lower element to be represented, and so I got elected to the board. And after I got on there and felt like I was fairly well established, I asked the president, who was then Ben Gilmer, what kind of a rule do you have that makes these poor fellows do all those thankless jobs in their communities? He looked surprised. He said, we don't have any rule. He said, we just employ the kind of fellows who think they have an obligation to work for their communities, and if they don't feel that way about it, they won't be happy with our company and they don't stay too long. You know, that's a pretty good principle. Incidentally, it helps to sell telephones, I think, but it's a good principle to follow anyhow. Where can you find a worthy cause to represent? Of course, you represent the best one of all, education. That's the worthiest of all of them. But there are other causes in the community. You ought to support your churches. You ought to support your Chamber of Commerce. You ought to join the Rotary Club to which I belong. If you can't get in the Rotary Club, get in one of the less important clubs, the Lions, Civitan, or Kiwanis. And support all of the community organizations, because we're going to be calling on the community to help us. And if you help the community will help you also. That's number 5. Here comes number 6, and this is the last one. Let the good Lord help you in your administration. I learned this from an ulcer. How many of you ever had an ulcer? Raise your hand. Well, you haven't been worrying as much as you ought to. When I had an ulcer, that was a number of years ago, and it was a bleeding one. It's pretty bad to bleed on the outside, but now you bleed on the inside, that's something else. And they took me off to the hospital, locked me up in the room there, and kept me there for a couple of weeks before they even let me see my doctor. Well, finally he came in and said, Andy, you've got an ulcer, and I can't cure it. After 2 weeks he tells me this. Well, sir, he said, no, I can't cure it. Nobody else can. Only person can cure your ulcer is yourself. What you've got to do is to stop worrying. Well, all he did was just to give me one more thing to worry about. Then I started worrying about how you go about stopping worrying. But I worried, and that old ulcer kept bothering me, and I'd drink milk, I'd eat raw eggs, eat crackers. Oh, it was a terrible existence. That old pain would gnaw on me, and I was even more unpleasant around home than ordinary, and that's a good bit. And I was in terrible condition. When one day I guess must have been 2 or 3 years later, I was walking down the main street of Knoxville, when a friend of mine stopped me and said, Andy, would you like to get rid of your ulcer? I ought to have knocked him down. But I didn't. I said I sure would. He said, well, would you be willing to spend 30 minutes a day working on it? I said I'd spend 26 hours a day working on it. He said, well, I got rid of mine at 30 minutes a day. He said, every morning when you get up out of bed, just take your Bible and read a chapter. So then get out on your knees and pray. Well, that's when I really ought to knock him down, because he should have known that I am the backbone of the Church Street Methodist Church. I never miss an Easter. I don't know when I ever did miss an Easter. I haven't mentioned Jack Emens' name but once. It would have been embarrassment if I had spoken about him instead of this thing I've done. And yet, everything I have said has been describing Jack Emens, because these are the principles that have directed him. He's done an awfully good job of surrounding himself with smart people. Despite the fact he's had terrific competition from 2 of the finest universities in the country, Purdue and the University of Indiana, plus all the rest of you folks who have given him competition, he even slips down to the South every once in a while and has stolen a few from me also, good faculty members. He hasn't let me select the ones I'd be willing to give him. There have been several of them I'd be willing to give him. I still have a few if he wants them. But he'd come down and get the best ones. He's done an amazing job of recruiting competent people around him. That's where you start. He's listened to them. I know he's listened to them, because one man, even as smart as Jack Emens, couldn't have done what I've seen around here today. John Fisher took me on a tour of this campus for about an hour. I've never seen such a transformation. I haven't been here for about, I guess 10 or 12 years. I never saw the like of all the new buildings around here, of expansion of your program. No longer a teacher's college, you're a great university now. And he couldn't have done that by himself. He had to listen to a lot of people who also were smart and to take their wisdom and combine it with his to bring about this result. I know that he's let them spread the wings because I don't know of a staff anywhere who have made more speeches, who have written more books, published more articles, been president of more professional organizations than members of the staff right here at this institution. So he certainly encouraged them to spread the wings. I know that he lets them know he appreciates them. The best way an administrator can let his teachers know that he appreciates them is to try to get them better salaries. And he certainly worked at that job full time and better fringe benefits. And they tell me that he's a wheel horse over yonder at the legislature. I mean, you don't call an educator a politician, but that's something like what he does when he gets over yonder at the legislature. But he's been working with faculty to improve their status. As to his community contribution, I understand that he belongs to every organization in Muncie, from the Saturday Night Canasta Club to the Daughters of I Will Arise. They say he belongs to all of them. On the hospital board, he's headed up the community church drive, all the rest of them, all the rest of them. You know, that's wonderful for him to do that. That also pays off sometime. He needed an auditorium here. Didn't see a chance in the world of getting. Now, you folks in district here may not know about this thing. This is quite interesting. You might remember this when you become president of an emerging university. The state of Indiana apparently will not give money for the construction of buildings that are not academic buildings. Well, an auditorium is not exactly an academic building. So what does he do? He builds an English building on this side. That's that wall you see right over yonder. He builds a music building on this side. That's that wall you see right here. Then right back of this stage, he builds a performing arts building also. You see, that gives it this. So all he had to do to build this blame thing was just top it over and put an end down yonder, and he had himself and then he went to the community and said, now look here, I've been doing all these things for you. You come do something for us. And the community just without batting an eye raised the money for this thing. He's been a terrific man in support of worthy causes. I don't know anything at all about Jack Emens' religion, but I imagine he's had a pretty close communion with the good Lord. Otherwise, he couldn't have dedicated himself as completely as he has to the service of his fellow men. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. I'm sure you all were wondering what he was going to say about that last item, so far as I was concerned. It just happens that about 2 years ago, I read an anonymous prayer, and I cut it out and put it in my pocket because I thought sometime there would be a good time to use it. I think maybe this is a good time to use it for both Andy and me. It says, and this is in quotes, Lord, Thou knowest better than I know myself that I'm growing older and will someday be old. Keep me from the fatal habit of thinking that I must say something on every subject, on every occasion. Release me from craving to straighten out everybody's affairs. Make me thoughtful but not moody, helpful but not bossy. With my vast store of wisdom, it seems a pity not to use it all. But Lord, Thou knowest that I want a few friends left at the end. I think that's a pretty good prayer for both Andy and me at this stage of the game. We'll proceed with the conference.
Dr. Holt, you've met two of our platform guests so far. At this time, I have the privilege of presenting the remainder of the honor guests on the platform. I shall ask each person to stand as his name is called, and will the audience please withhold applause until the end. We are pleased to have with us this evening, or this afternoon I should say, 4 members of the Ball State University Board. Dr. A.M. Bracken, President. Mr. Floyd A. Hines, Vice President. Ms. Thelma Ballard, Secretary. And Mr. Richard Wells, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, who serves as ex officio member of the board. Unfortunately, the newest member of the board, Mr. George Stevens, who serves as Assistant Secretary, was unable to attend this afternoon. On stage also we have the four Vice Presidents of the University. Dr. Richard W. Burkhardt, Vice President for Instructional Affairs and Dean of Faculties. Dr. Merrill C. Byro, Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students. Dr. Oliver C. Bum, Vice President for Public Affairs and University Development. And Dr. Joseph C. Wagner, Vice President for Business Affairs and Treasurer. Also on stage, among the honored guests, are Mr. F. Lemuel Anderson, Special Assistant Professor of Music, Dr. G. Kerry Smith, Executive Secretary of the American Association for Higher Education, and Dr. Alexander D. McGibbon, Professor of English and University Marshal for this conference.
Is from the Rutgers University, Mr. George S. Keller. From the University of Michigan, Robert L. Stratton. St. Louis University, Thomas W. Dunning. University of Evansville, Wallace B. Graves, President. Michigan State University, John W. Truitt. Illinois State University, Robert State Teachers College, John E. Visser, President. The Ohio State University, Victor B. Lawhead. Purdue University, John W. Hicks. Indiana State University, Alan C. Rankin, President. State University of New York at Fredonia. Appalachian State University, Paul Sanders. Western Michigan University, John J. Proof. Kent State University, Roy Corrin. Anderson College, Robert A. Nicholson. in his role as Executive Secretary of the Association of Higher Education. He will greet us and President Emens at this time. Dr. Smith.
President Emens, President Holt, honored guests, other friends of Ball State University. On behalf of approximately 25,000 faculty members and administrators from institutions of all types, public and private, large and small, in all states of the Union and several foreign countries, I'm pleased to add one more tribute to Ball State University, to its excellent staff, and to the remarkable man who has guided this institution for almost a quarter of a century. President Emens, at one time, not so long ago, was elected president of the American Association for Higher Education. He remains active in the leadership of our organization. If one were simply to list the organizations, national and regional, which your president has had an active leadership part, it would take more time than would be appropriate on this occasion. Those of you, for instance, who attended the luncheon meeting today heard how President Emens' dream helped to create in the past 7 years what is now one of the most influential organizations in the higher education constellation, that is, the Association of State Colleges and Universities. Seeing dreams come true seems to be the Emens tradition. Yesterday, those of you who were attending it heard some discussion of his leadership in the American Association of Colleges and Teacher Education. In brief, I know of no national organization in higher education of an appropriate kind to which he could belong, which President Emens has not been an influential leader, while at the same time doing a superlative job on the campus, in the community, and in the state, not like those described this morning by Mr. Diamond, who were always in the air. I feel sure that the whole trust of associations that I've referred to join with me in giving warmest greetings on this auspicious occasion. Andy Holt spoke about the care with which this conference had been organized. I would like to add my comment on that, too, that the theme of this conference, with the exception of the eloquent address you had today, but it was related to it, but the specific theme of emerging universities and the national concerns has been infiltrated, integrated, shot through the whole assembly program. Those of you who've had the privilege to attend them all. This was foreshadowed, this theme was both foreshadowed and accented earlier this week in President Johnson's education message to the Congress, in which he said, to quote, "As never before, we look to the colleges and universities for help with every problem in our society." Chancellor Dumke at the first general session spoke of some special characteristics of the emerging universities which make them particularly able to respond to national concerns. One of these characteristics was that these institutions are better able to innovate, to make necessary changes, to meet the challenges which one speaker today called heroic in proportions, as outlined by the several speakers. It's very satisfying to those of us who watch the national scene to know that Ball State is planning exciting new endeavors at this particular 50th milestone, and that it has in being already a number of such activities. Concerning interdisciplinary cooperation as recommended by Professor Commoner, there is, for example, at Ball State, the humanities program in honors, which brings several departments into focus for this particular purpose. Another example was also foreshadowed by the same presidential message earlier this week, with a reference to a proposed network for knowledge. Even before that announcement was made of a plan that would be set into motion, something of this sort, a new cooperative enterprise had gotten underway, the Indiana Telecommunications Network, which links electronically 4 state university systems as well as their regional centers with TV, radio, and computer, so that outstanding teachers can speak up to use the words of Mr. Diamond as he changed his topic this morning. Outstanding teachers can be shared and more productive research operation will be possible. This team approach in Indiana, in which Ball State has played an important leadership role, is setting the pace nationally in a system which will become far more important than many people now realize. And again, it was a pace-setting action which preceded action in the Congress for development of this kind of modern electronic communications. So
your program says acknowledgments of greetings, and it's my privilege at this time to express the sincere appreciation of Ball State University and all of those who have helped plan this program, to Kerry Smith for his greetings and messages representing the National Association, the American Association for Higher Education, and to all delegates from institutions of higher education and all representatives of professional organizations who have joined us today. And there are others who have sent greetings that we shall reply to them. You have helped us with our 50th anniversary commemoration and with our celebration of being a university on our 4th birthday. And it's been our pleasure to sponsor this conference on emerging universities and national concerns. Your attendance and participation have stimulated us. We hope to increased effort in our attempt to emerge, in quotes, as a nationally recognized university of quality. And it is our hope that you have been encouraged by our speakers and through your involvement and participation to return to your own campuses and assignments wherever they are with renewed vigor, because you will need it to face the many challenges which confront higher education today. So we thank you for coming, and we appreciate your participation. Thank you all.
Please stand and join with me in singing our national anthem.